What if living in one of America's most desirable states slowly became exhausting? Not because you made poor choices, but because the city itself changed faster than anyone expected. Colorado is still marketed as a land of opportunity, fresh air, and limitless adventure. Yet for many residents, daily life now feels far more complicated than the postcard images suggest. Behind the mountain views and booming skylines, a quieter reality is taking shape, one where living well requires more patience, more sacrifice, and far more resilience than before. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't talk about. When cities grow rapidly, quality of life is often the first thing to suffer. What once felt exciting begins to feel overwhelming. Simple routines turn stressful, commutes stretch longer, and systems that once worked smoothly begin to strain under pressure. Residents aren't just noticing higher prices, they're feeling the weight of cities struggling to keep up with their own popularity. And perhaps the most surprising part is this. Many of these challenges don't hit newcomers first. They hit the people who've lived there the longest. Longtime residents often describe feeling pushed aside in their own communities, watching familiar neighborhoods transform almost overnight. The sense of belonging that once defined these cities is slowly being replaced by constant adjustment and uncertainty. In this video, we're diving into Colorado cities facing growing challenges for residents, challenges that go far beyond rising costs. These are cities that still offer opportunity, beauty, and promise, but where daily living is becoming noticeably harder. And we begin with a city that perfectly captures both the success and the strain of modern Colorado life. Denver has become a symbol of growth, ambition, and economic momentum. It attracts professionals, entrepreneurs, and families from across the country, all drawn by the promise of opportunity and outdoor living. On paper, Denver looks like a city that's doing everything right. But for the people who live there, the reality feels far more complicated. One of Denver's most pressing challenges is the constant pressure on daily mobility. Traffic congestion has evolved from an occasional inconvenience into a defining feature of everyday life. Commutes that once took minutes now eat away hours, leaving residents drained before the workday even begins. Public transportation exists, but expansion has struggled to keep pace with demand, making reliability a growing concern rather than a dependable solution. Beyond transportation, Denver's rapid growth has reshaped how the city feels. Public spaces are more crowded, appointments are harder to schedule, and basic errands require more time and planning than ever before. Schools face capacity issues, healthcare providers struggle with availability, and residents increasingly feel like they're competing for access to essential services. These pressures don't make headlines, but they quietly erode quality of life. There's also a deeper emotional shift happening in Denver, one that longtime residents feel most strongly. Neighborhoods that once had a clear identity are changing at a rapid pace. Local businesses disappear, replaced by developments that feel interchangeable and impersonal. For many people, the challenge isn't just affordability. It's the feeling that the city they knew no longer recognizes them. Just south of Denver, Colorado Springs tells a different but equally revealing story. Often promoted as a calmer, more family-friendly alternative, the city has experienced significant population growth in recent years. Military presence, expanding job markets, and lifestyle appeal have drawn thousands of new residents. But with that growth has come a new set of challenges that are becoming harder to ignore. One of the biggest issues facing Colorado Springs is expansion without balance. As the city spreads outward, residents are increasingly living farther from jobs, schools, and healthcare. Daily life becomes more car-dependent, commutes grow longer, and convenience fades. What once felt like spacious living now feels disconnected, forcing residents to plan their lives around distance rather than ease. Healthcare access is another growing concern. While facilities exist, demand has surged faster than availability. Many residents report longer wait times and limited provider options, particularly for specialized care. This creates added stress for families and older residents, turning what should be routine care into a logistical challenge. Wages also play a quiet but critical role in the pressure residents feel. While Colorado Springs is often viewed as more affordable, income growth hasn't always matched the pace of the city's evolution. Many people find themselves maintaining a lifestyle that looks stable on the surface, yet leaves little room for savings, rest, or long-term planning. It's a form of strain that builds slowly but steadily. What connects Denver and Colorado Springs isn't decline, it's transition. These cities are growing, changing, and redefining themselves. But when growth moves faster than infrastructure, planning, and community support, residents are left absorbing the impact. And these two cities are just the beginning. Across Colorado, more cities are facing similar pressures, each with its own unique challenges and consequences. In the next part, we'll explore additional cities where residents are feeling the strain and why these patterns are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. If growth were always a good thing, more cities wouldn't be quietly struggling beneath the surface. In Colorado, several communities are discovering that rapid popularity can bring challenges just as powerful as opportunity. What looks like success from the outside often feels like pressure from the inside, especially for the people trying to build stable, everyday lives. And as we move beyond the state's biggest cities, these challenges become even more revealing. Fort Collins is often praised as one of Colorado's most desirable places to live. Known for its college town energy, outdoor access, and relaxed atmosphere, it attracts students, professionals, and families alike. On the surface, it feels balanced and welcoming. But for residents, maintaining that balance has become increasingly difficult. One growing issue in Fort Collins is the tension between expansion and livability. Population growth has accelerated, yet the city's infrastructure hasn't fully adjusted. Roads feel more crowded. Parking has become a constant frustration, and public services are stretched thinner than many expected. What once felt like a laid-back lifestyle now requires far more patience and planning. The presence of a large student population adds another layer of complexity. While it brings energy and economic activity, it also creates housing pressure and seasonal instability. Residents often describe neighborhoods shifting rapidly, with frequent turnover that makes long-term community connections harder to maintain. For families and older residents, this lack of consistency can feel unsettling rather than vibrant. Employment opportunities exist, but competition is growing. As more people move in, jobs that once felt accessible now feel harder to secure or advance within. This creates a quiet anxiety, especially for those who move to Fort Collins expecting stability. Life doesn't feel unlivable, but it feels increasingly tight, like there's less room to breathe than before. Boulder tells a different story, yet arrives at a similar conclusion. Known globally for its innovation, wellness culture, and natural beauty, Boulder has built a reputation as a high-quality place to live. But that reputation has also become its biggest challenge. One of Boulder's most significant issues is limited space. Strict development policies and geographic constraints mean the city can't expand easily. As demand rises, pressure intensifies, not just on housing, but on daily life. Streets are busier, trails are more crowded, and public amenities feel overused. What was once peaceful now feels constantly occupied. The pace of life in Boulder has also changed. While the city still promotes balance and wellness, many residents feel an underlying intensity that didn't exist before. Competition for jobs, resources, and even leisure space creates a subtle but constant stress. For those seeking calm and simplicity, this shift can be disappointing. There's also a growing sense of exclusivity. Boulder's culture increasingly caters to a narrow lifestyle, making some residents feel out of place or unseen. This isn't about cost alone, it's about cultural fit. People who once felt connected to the city now question whether there's still space for them in its future. Moving west, Grand Junction offers another perspective on Colorado's growing challenges. Often viewed as a quieter alternative to Front Range cities, it attracts those seeking affordability, space, and a slower pace. But even here, residents are facing pressures that complicate daily life. One major challenge in Grand Junction is limited access to services. While the city continues to grow, healthcare, specialized employment, and advanced education options remain constrained. Residents often travel long distances for care or career advancement, adding time, expense, and stress to everyday routines. Economic diversity is another concern. Job opportunities exist, but many are concentrated in specific sectors, leaving fewer options for upward mobility. This creates a situation where people can live there but struggle to grow. Over time, the stagnation can feel just as limiting as overcrowding. Infrastructure also plays a role. As more people move in, roads, utilities, and public spaces are feeling the strain. The city's charm remains, but residents increasingly notice the gap between growth and preparedness. It's not a crisis, but it's a warning sign. What connects Fort Collins, Boulder, and Grand Junction is not failure, but friction. Each city is desirable for a reason, yet each is grappling with the reality that popularity changes everything. The more people arrive, the more daily life shifts, often in ways that aren't immediately visible. These cities highlight an important truth. Livability isn't just about money. It's about time, access, connection, and emotional well-being. When those elements start to erode, even beautiful and opportunity-filled places can become difficult to live in. And there are still more Colorado cities experiencing similar pressure, each with its own story and its own set of challenges. In the next part, we'll look at additional communities where residents are feeling stretched and why these patterns suggest a broader shift happening across the state. Sometimes the hardest cities to live in aren't the loudest or the biggest. They're the ones where the struggle quietly builds over time. Colorado has several cities that appear stable and comfortable on the surface. Yet for residents, daily life is becoming more demanding in subtle but powerful ways. These are places where the pressure doesn't explode overnight, but slowly reshapes routines, expectations, and long-term plans. Pueblo is often described as a city with strong roots and deep history. It has a sense of identity that many Colorado cities have already lost. For decades, Pueblo represented affordability, community, and slower living. But today, residents are facing a growing list of challenges that complicate that image. One of Pueblo's biggest struggles is economic momentum. While the city offers lower living costs compared to much of Colorado, job growth hasn't kept pace with modern demands. Many residents find work, but fewer find careers with upward mobility. This creates a cycle where people can survive but struggle to move forward. Over time, that lack of progress becomes emotionally draining. Infrastructure also presents daily frustrations. Roads, public facilities, and services often feel outdated or undermaintained. While none of these issues alone make life impossible, together they add friction to everyday routines. Tasks that should be simple take longer, require more effort, and slowly wear residents down. There's also a sense of being overlooked. As Colorado's attention focuses on booming metro areas, cities like Pueblo often feel left behind. That perception matters because it affects morale, investment, and long-term confidence in the city's future. Residents aren't just managing challenges, they're questioning whether meaningful change is coming at all. Aurora offers a completely different experience, yet faces its own growing pressures. As one of Colorado's most diverse and rapidly expanding cities, Aurora plays a crucial role in the state's urban landscape. It attracts families, professionals, and newcomers seeking opportunity. But growth at this scale comes with serious trade-offs. One of Aurora's most pressing issues is overcrowding. As population density increases, public services struggle to keep up. Schools face capacity concerns, healthcare access becomes more competitive, and emergency services operate under increasing strain. For residents, this creates a feeling of constant demand without enough support. Transportation is another daily challenge. Many residents rely on long commutes, often traveling between cities for work. Traffic congestion, limited transit efficiency, and time lost on the road take a toll not just financially, but mentally. Life begins to revolve around schedules instead of balance. Aurora also experiences a unique identity challenge. As a city shaped by rapid change, some neighborhoods feel disconnected from one another. Residents often describe a lack of cohesion, a sense that the city is growing outward faster than its community bonds can form. That absence of connection can make even a busy city feel isolating. Farther north, Greeley presents yet another version of Colorado's growing pains. Known for its agricultural roots and expanding economy, Greeley has attracted new residents seeking opportunity outside the major metro centers. But as the city grows, residents are discovering that opportunity alone doesn't guarantee comfort. One challenge in Greeley is environmental pressure. Air quality concerns, industrial proximity, and seasonal issues affect daily life in ways many newcomers don't anticipate. These factors may not dominate headlines, but they influence health, outdoor activity, and overall well-being. Housing availability has also tightened, not just in price, but in quality and location. Residents increasingly find themselves choosing between proximity to work and acceptable living conditions. That trade-off creates stress, especially for families trying to establish long-term stability. Job growth exists, but specialization remains limited. Many residents commute elsewhere for higher-paying or more diverse opportunities, turning Greeley into a place to live rather than thrive. Over time, that dynamic changes how residents view the city's role in their future. What Pueblo, Aurora, and Greeley reveal is an important pattern. Cities don't need to be expensive or overcrowded to be challenging. They become difficult when growth, opportunity, and infrastructure fall out of alignment. When residents feel stuck, rushed, or disconnected, livability suffers, even if the city looks successful on paper. These challenges are not signs of collapse, but signals of imbalance. And as more people move across Colorado, these signals are appearing in more places than ever before. Still, there are more cities where these pressures are becoming impossible to ignore. In the next part, we'll examine additional communities where residents are struggling with issues that rarely make headlines, but deeply shape daily life. Not every challenge announces itself loudly. In many Colorado cities, the struggle to live comfortably shows up in quieter ways, through constant adjustment, shrinking personal time, and the slow erosion of stability. These are cities where residents are still showing up every day, still working, still trying, but increasingly wondering whether the effort is worth the return. And in these places, the pressure is building fast. Lakewood is often seen as a convenient place to live. Located near Denver, it offers access without being in the city center, making it appealing to families and professionals alike. On paper, it seems like a smart compromise. But for residents, that convenience is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. One of Lakewood's biggest challenges is spillover growth. As nearby cities become more crowded, people move outward, bringing increased traffic and demand. Roads that were never designed for heavy congestion now handle constant flow, turning short trips into long delays. Over time, this eats away at personal schedules and increases daily stress. Public services are also feeling the pressure. Schools, recreational facilities, and local offices must serve a growing population without proportional expansion. Residents often find themselves waiting longer, planning more, and adapting constantly. Life doesn't feel impossible, but it feels relentlessly busy. There's also a growing identity shift. As Lakewood absorbs influence from surrounding cities, some residents feel the community's character becoming less defined. What was once familiar now feels transitional, leaving people unsure of what the city is becoming or who it's really designed for. Loveland tells a quieter but equally revealing story. Known for its charm, art scene, and proximity to nature, Loveland has attracted those seeking peace without isolation. But as interest in the city grows, residents are experiencing unexpected pressures. One major issue is uneven development. Growth isn't distributed evenly, leaving some neighborhoods thriving while others struggle to keep up. This creates disparities in access to services, amenities, and infrastructure. Residents notice the imbalance, and over time, it affects how connected the city feels. Employment opportunities in Loveland can also be limiting. While jobs exist, advancement often requires commuting elsewhere. This turns the city into a place people sleep rather than live fully. The added travel time chips away at family life, rest, and personal fulfillment. There's also a shift in expectations. As more people move in, competition increases, not just for housing, but for resources, space, and attention. What once felt relaxed now feels scheduled, structured, and tightly packed. Farther south, Kansas City offers a stark example of how geography can shape livability. Surrounded by natural beauty, it attracts those looking for scenic living and slower rhythms. But for residents, isolation can become a serious challenge. Access to specialized healthcare and services is limited, requiring frequent travel to larger cities. For families, seniors, and those with ongoing needs, this adds stress and uncertainty. Everyday life becomes dependent on distance, weather, and timing. Economic options are also constrained. Jobs exist, but variety is limited, making career growth difficult. Many residents feel rooted geographically but restricted professionally. Over time, this imbalance creates frustration and difficult decisions about staying or leaving. Infrastructure limitations add another layer of complexity. As the city grows, systems designed for smaller populations struggle to adapt. Residents notice delays, shortages, and gaps, not dramatic failures, but constant reminders that growth has outpaced preparation. What Lakewood, Loveland, and Kansas City share is a growing sense of strain beneath the surface. These are not cities in crisis. They're cities in transition, caught between who they were and who they're becoming. Residents aren't necessarily asking for perfection. They're asking for balance. They want growth that supports daily life rather than complicates it. When that balance is missing, even the most scenic and well-located cities can begin to feel overwhelming. And there's still one final group of cities we haven't discussed, places where these challenges converge in ways that demand attention. In the final part, we'll look at the remaining Colorado cities facing growing challenges and what all of this reveals about the future of living in the state. What happens when a place people once moved to for a better life slowly becomes a source of constant pressure? Across Colorado, that question is becoming harder to ignore. The cities we've discussed aren't collapsing, and they aren't failing, but they're changing in ways that deeply affect the people who call them home. And in this final part, we look at the last cities where these challenges come into sharp focus before stepping back to see the bigger picture they all reveal. Thornton has grown rapidly in recent years, transforming from a quieter suburban area into a dense, active city. For many residents, that growth initially felt like progress, more development, more services, more opportunity. But as the city expanded, daily life began to feel more complicated. One of Thornton's biggest challenges is infrastructure strain. Roads, intersections, and public transit systems are under constant pressure, making even short commutes unpredictable. Residents often plan their days around traffic patterns rather than personal priorities. Over time, that loss of flexibility takes a toll on work-life balance. Public services face similar challenges. Schools, healthcare facilities, and local offices must serve a growing population with limited expansion. Residents describe longer wait times and reduced access, turning basic needs into recurring frustrations. It's not one major failure. It's the accumulation of small obstacles that wear people down. Farther north, Longmont offers a different kind of challenge. Known for its innovation, growing tech presence, and family-friendly appeal, Longmont has attracted new residents seeking opportunity without the intensity of larger cities. But success brings its own pressures. As demand increases, the city's pace has quickened. Streets are busier, public spaces feel more crowded, and competition for services has intensified. What once felt balanced now requires careful planning and constant adjustment. Residents aren't just managing schedules, they're managing stress. Longmont also faces a cultural shift. As new industries arrive, the city's identity continues to evolve. Some residents embrace the change, while others feel disconnected from a city that no longer reflects the lifestyle they once chose. That sense of displacement doesn't come from cost alone. It comes from rapid transformation. Together, Thornton and Longmont complete a pattern seen across Colorado. Growth is no longer confined to major hubs. It's spreading outward, reshaping cities of all sizes. And while opportunity follows growth, so do challenges that directly affect daily living. What these 10 cities collectively reveal is a critical truth. Livability is about more than affordability. It's about time, access, community, and emotional stability. When commutes dominate days, when services feel out of reach, and when neighborhoods lose their sense of connection, even beautiful places become difficult to live in. This doesn't mean Colorado is losing its appeal. It means the state is at a crossroads. How cities respond to growth, through planning, investment, and community focus, will determine whether residents can thrive or merely cope. The difference matters. For viewers watching this who live in Colorado, these challenges likely feel familiar. And for those considering a move, this isn't a warning, it's awareness. Understanding a city's hidden pressures is just as important as knowing its highlights. The most important takeaway is this: cities don't become hard to live in overnight. They change gradually, through a series of small shifts that add up over time. Paying attention to those shifts gives residents and leaders a chance to respond before the pressure becomes permanent. Colorado's cities are still full of possibility. But possibility only becomes reality when growth serves the people who live there, not the other way around. And the future of living in the state will depend on how well that balance is restored. If this video resonated with you, it's because these challenges are not unique to Colorado. They're happening everywhere growth outpaces planning. And understanding them is the first step toward better cities, stronger communities, and more sustainable living.